all mine.
I understand. Hi, everybody. This hangout is on air live, so I'm told. Welcome to June MacAdmin Monthly, and it's the day after a lot of big announcements from WDC, so I think that's going to give us plenty of fodder for today. It's mostly the usual crowd. You're new, right?
New.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Who are you?
My name is Dominic, MacAdmin for almost 15 years now, around the city, various agencies.
Awesome.
My first MacAdmin meetup.
Well,
welcome.
Glad to have you here. Hope you can join us in the future.
Yeah.
What is your sort of domain like?
Mostly agencies.
So are you consulting or you work on staff?
Full-time on staff.
Okay.
I did probably 7 or 8 years of consulting, or at least field tech work. Been full-time at various agencies for the last 8, I guess.
So, but you sort of wear multiple hats?
Oh yeah, I'm one of those guys that
Yeah.
works at 120, 200 people place where I do everything.
Yeah.
And regret the phone calls I get Christmas morning because somebody got a new phone. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, you don't have to answer those.
Or rather, a lot of everything.
I have to admit, I miss that a little bit. I miss diving into networking and then OS setup and
It's nice to have a little change up. A comparison between full-time versus field tech. You're always confronted with new problems when you're out in the field or whatever. It's kind of the same thing when you're doing everything. It'd be nice to specialize because the same benefits you get from being full-time, you can focus on a problem, you can see the long-term evolution of things, and but at the same time not being able to specialize because you're a jack of all trades is its own trade-offs.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So I guess let's jump right in. WDC. Let's start with the positive stuff because we all probably have gripes and/or questions. Anyone want to start? What was the best takeaway from WDC for you so far?
So far, I like that. I think I was mentioning this over lunch. I like that they actually did some Mac demo.
Yeah, the Mac is still a viable product. I think if you talk to the right people at Apple, they've reinforced that.
Yeah.
They've reinforced people say we're going to merge iOS and Mac OS, and no, we're not going to. Right? I think they've walked the right line of bringing features from iOS to Mac OS without making it iOS. And seeing the Mac in the keynote those is always reassuring. So that was good. You mentioned the file system. So I think it was a good announcement. I think it's too early to.
It's going to be hard to tell.
Know anything about it.
Right.
Right. So they announced it, but it's not even. It's shipping
more than anything,
2017.
from my perspective, it's just nice to know that they're doing something because it's been so long, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And, it's all the OSs are going through this now. Microsoft's working on theirs, and FreeBSD is doing ZFS, and they have been for 8 years, but Apple's been mute on the whole issue until yesterday. So.
Well, they've been adding Jenga pieces to
Right.
HFS, right? We're all just kind of waiting for it to fall over.
Yeah.
The specs that they talk about seem really nice. The encryption stuff seems really interesting. I think the most interesting piece of it for me, and I think you pointed this out to me today, is that basically it's going to be the unified file system across all their platforms.
Yeah.
So it's not Mac is getting this special thing.
It'll be interesting to see how well that actually pans out.
Well, I think it can work pretty well. I mean, iOS gets treated specially, but it's still it's just an OS, right? Bits and bytes, and it's writing things to storage. And
I'm thinking more in terms of performance trade-offs, right? CPU, RAM sizes. What kind of the features that they announced seems like it requires a fair amount of hardware. At least more modest than some other file systems for sure. But
I think that's benefited Mac OS. I forgot we got a new name. Mac OS. So I think that benefits Mac OS more than any of the other platforms because they work so hard not to jeopardize iOS. and they do these things on iOS in a very resource-constrained environment, and then they bring it to macOS, and they're like, oh yeah, this is fine, right? Like they've done that with QuickTime, they've done that with a bunch of things.
Yeah.
It's really worked out pretty well. But yeah, the file system is going to be really interesting, but unfortunately, it's a little further off, I think, than like they mentioned it. We're all excited about it, but yeah. If they're saying it's not ready, then it's not ready, and you probably don't want to be using it. I think that's where Russell ran into problems, right? He's like, "Oh my God, Sierra, it's really good, and let me convert my volume."
Trying to convert it is, I have been warned that this will revert my data. I am okay with this.
Yeah.
That's the bug. You have to set to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that part of it. I guess maybe I'm older and wiser now, and I don't like Beta 1 seeds from Apple. I don't get terribly excited about. It's like, I know this is going to be really broken, and that's fine. But it's good to start poking around. I've seen people in the MacAdmin's Slack channels sort of poking around and saying, oh, there's this new binary, or there's this new thing. And so that's nice.
What's interesting too with the new file system, they're not calling it this, but it sounds very much like this is what it is. It's like deduplication of.
It seems like they were
file.
heavily influenced by ZFS. So there's cloning, there's copy on write, there's snapshots. There's a lot of stuff that they're announcing. So I hope it all pans out. And I think that's a good observation that if they're saying it's not going to ship with Sierra, like fortunately or unfortunately, like it's probably fortunately, because if Apple's saying it's not ready, then yeah, we should take them at their word for it. Anything else? What was it?
Well, that announcement, they totally killed deep freeze, right? So I guess that's worth a mention.
How so? I think I missed that.
So it wasn't in the keynote, it was in the state of the platform.
Which I'm only halfway through watching. I will, my disclaimer right now is that, yeah, this is going to be educational for me, and I will probably ask a lot of uninformed questions, because I watched the keynote, which was kind of bland, admittedly, but I just started watching the State of the Platforms thing today, and I keep looking at all these other amazing sessions and going, oh man, there's so much to catch up on. But, so how did they kill deep freeze?
So they actually announced, like they were demoing the file system really shortly in the platform, and they were talking about this feature where if you're a teacher, you can have, you know, you can roll back the file system of the class. And
wow. That's interesting, because last I checked, and Tom used to work at an Apple store, I think. He might know when he's back, but for the longest time, Apple was using deep freeze in their stores for that exact purpose. All the demo
They just
machines.
saved themselves a bunch of money.
They still were when I left.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
3.5
I didn't
years
realize
ago.
that. Yeah. So I know they were a customer of that.
Probably still will until it ships,
Until it breaks,
Until you have
yeah.
snapshots everywhere.
Yeah, and then they're ready to go.
Oh, that's
With
interesting.
the snapshot icon, they're used for a lot of things.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
that
Like,
was their number of uses in there.
And the,
Every backup program will use that. You know, make a snapshot, backup a snapshot. You know, no, just like backing up live. You can actually.
right.
Awesome.
where does it keep that data though? Like, if they go into anything?
What, the snapshot?
Yeah.
Usually hard.
It doesn't. It basically essentially a hard link. It's just like, here's a list of everything I have. It's if you change one of the files that's been snapshotted, then that changes the snapshot. Everything's like copy and
I
write.
see.
So I say make a snapshot of file A, and then you have two files. You have two files, one in the snapshot and then one in the new one.
Gotcha.
But as soon as you make a change, then it actually like, all right, well, I'll copy the file and make the changes now.
You know, one of the weird things about copy on write is that nothing ever really gets deleted until you like explicitly say you have to delete this stuff. So the bytes all still live there, and it's all still referenced in the like the directory, for the lack of a better word, which is how you do snapshots. You just say, you know, so these bytes correspond with this time period, and then you just keep adding more bytes.
Right.
The file system keeps growing until you actually say, you know, you can purge anything older than.
Which was interesting. That was one of the first things I saw in the release notes for APFS. It was like, sub-millisecond timestamping. And it's like, wow, it's really specific.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's pretty
atomicity
amazing.
for files and snapshots.
Makes
right?
me wish they still had like a hardware server product because it would be great for that. This new file system, in theory, could do a great job with some of that stuff, especially
Yeah.
joined up with some other Apple services.
Sure, but I guess it even helps servers that you're running now on non sort of like server class hardware even more, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like if you're running it on your Mini or Mac Pro or something, then it's going to help a lot.
Yeah.
For that type of stuff, because you don't have all the physical redundancy. And,
Right.
Yeah.
That's like the other part of it, I suppose. Not to just like hammer away at the file system thing, but that it's designed for solid state storage is like I think a big deal too. Which is different from like what you would get from like ZFS, which is designed for big spinning disks.
Right. Yeah, SSDs really changed the equation on a lot of things, right? That's pretty interesting. But I mean, really, let's talk about the things that I think will impact Mac admins in the deepest way. We're getting stickers in iMessage. Come on, are you not psyched over this? That was the part of the state of the platforms that I did see when they came out and they did the demo in Xcode. It's like, it's like an asset catalog. That's all it is. There was like no code behind it. Like they really want to make this easy for anyone. I admit I'm beyond the demographic to get excited about emojis and stickers, but I guess it helps them compete with WeChat and Line and those applications.
Yeah,
Stickers would have animated GIFs though.
Yeah. Hello.
I mean,
It's out.
there's two new features that stands out. One of them is whenever you go to a third-party app and your watch, sometimes it takes a long time to come on. But now they optimize it where it comes quick now.
I'm not a watch user, but everyone has been saying that is massive improvement.
We still can't get that to actually install though. Like we've tried to put the data on everything like near it to like make it convinced that it's supposed to install.
And the other one is you don't have to put how sometimes you put your password in and sometimes there's a way you got to put it in. Now with your phone automatically
So
goes on.
that's an
kind of
interesting announcement. I think we're all interested in seeing where that goes, but it seems like that's a watch-specific feature, right? They didn't
I think so.
say that that's going to work with the phone, right? The unlocking. That's just the watch.
Yeah.
Damn it! Now
Well, because someone could just like,
now they got me.
Well, they didn't even
it's really
say
easy
whether
to
or not
just snag someone's phone off their desk. It's a lot more different.
Sure, but you could snag a phone off someone's desk, but still require Touch ID to unlock the machine, which that would make perfect sense.
Yeah. I think they were trying to avoid any interaction at all, where you just kind of like magically
it's clever,
unbox
but
and whatever.
damn it.
It's probably a variation on handoff. I mean, handoff works with Bluetooth LE and
Oh,
Your Apple ID, which is that was the biggest
right.
upset for me, is because I have a different work Apple ID than I have a personal. So what are the devices I want to unlock all the time? Not the ones associated with the Apple ID on the watch. So that was a bit of a bummer. But like they also like just didn't tell you what the implementation is because it's like when you need to know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
That actually, speaking of handoff, the copy and paste
Oh yeah, that was like
between devices,
That was
if
nice.
that works,
And rich, right? Images, whatever you got.
if that works
whatever you gotta
well,
export.
I'm really excited. And the only reason I say if that works well is
Sometimes-
because AirDrop fails me
Yeah.
all the time when I want to use it. When I want to send people on the train pictures of us, it works great.
You know, that's interesting. You don't hear about
Not that
AirDrop.
I've received any bugs from it.
when I want to get work done, I'm waiting for the thing to show up. I'm waiting for the other device, and it never works.
See, I had the opposite experience, to be honest with you.
Oh man!
AirDrop for me, like, always works. Everybody always complains about it, and I'm like, works for me. Like yesterday, I AirDropped from my computer to my phone the mobile config profile for
Nice.
iOS 10. Bam. First time, worked like a charm. It's like, do you want to install this? And like, you just worked.
It was the biggest show your hand thing was that you move that profile to your iOS device and it goes, where is this supposed to go? So you could possibly go to so therefore you could probably do MDM to the watch, which makes you think that the watch has those frameworks ready to go, that it will finally be untethered.
Now I have to get a watch.
But I
Yeah,
was
the price
curious
went
about
down.
that dialogue, so I was kind of like, that's curious.
Interesting. Yeah.
Why are they sending a profile to a device? And that's also because like it doesn't care what the recipient iOS device is.
Yeah.
When it goes to the phone, it doesn't know, is this supposed to be for beta for the phone OS or for the watch OS? And so it's really kind of bizarre because it puts it essentially into the watch app, and then you still need a beta on the phone to apply the watch's software update, but you don't have to tether all these crap things.
Yeah. They just.
Thank the Lord Almighty, you just put a configuration profile and you're on that track. Like, welcome to the Mac for years.
It's much easier.
Might find out tomorrow because they have that session in MDM. But to me, it's like, which company is going to buy watches for their employees and put them on MDM? Like, what
That's a
watches
good
are
question.
they?
Yeah.
But also, like, when has that been a primary concern?
Yeah, true.
If you
That's a BYOD, and
All you need is a compelling
you have
app.
to go deal with
right?
that, right?
Unless they do something like authenticator or something like that.
Maybe security is a compelling app to get all your employees Apple Watches, right?
Wow.
Instead of a key card to get in here, you
Yeah.
just walk around with your watch. It has biometrics. It knows who you are.
It could demo really well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
but all they're doing right now is assuming that personal devices. Because you have that Apple ID, you don't have that type of magic. If they can fix provisioning profiles for Xcode developers, maybe they can actually fix the multiple Apple ID problem. Maybe we'll wait 7 more years for that, one or the other.
Oh, yeah. Before I get excited about other things, before you walked in, the question was, what was your big like? What are you excited about? Let's talk about the positive stuff because we all have gripes, I'm sure, right? Like, what was your takeaway from the state of the platforms? Or like, what are you excited about?
Oh, the state of the platforms, which
Or keynote or whatever.
I saw this morning was that my wife can make stickers for iOS.
That's what I
I have stolen the Line stickers out of the Line
no kidding.
macOS app, and therefore my Slack foo is strong. I have the perfect sticker for any time. Booyaka shot.
Yeah.
I cannot wait until my wife, and like, did you see them?
Yeah.
Bum Mac, the whole nine.
Yeah.
It's like built in. I mean, you have to go to the iMessage store or whatever the hell they call it. Everything has to be a store now.
iMessage App Store.
Complications store-ish thing based on what you have already installed. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to messages. Yeah.
All right. From a Mac admin perspective.
From a Mac admin
Something that affects you more personally.
From a Mac admin perspective, file system.
File system. Why are you excited about that?
Because it's going to change a whole bunch of stuff, and that just requires more work. So
Yeah.
I want to know more about it. So
Job
I'm ready
security.
for it. Survival instinct, maybe a little bit.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm so like, what is it? Stockholm syndrome about File 2 interactions.
Yeah.
That like I think that they're okay now, right? I've gone past the point that I'm all the way back around where I think like, File Vault, why don't you have File Vault? Why doesn't everyone have File Vault? And now there's this entire different paradigm that nobody knows anything about. And it's kind of like, well, I want to get ahead of that. And spinning disks feel freaking horrible everywhere you encounter them. Does this affect into the past to actually make life livable?
So
migrations?
that makes me jump ahead a little bit. One thing Apple did announce is that Sierra is going to knock some machines off the supported list.
5+ years old.
What's the rationale? Why? Does that get rid of spinning disks
No,
in machines? No.
because it goes back
Is it
to
the
Still gets
chipset?
spinning disks in mine.
Is it the chipset?
No, it's education models, pretty much. Like the
Is that it?
iMacs, the bottom line iMacs still have what, like 5,400 gram traffics?
I suspect some of it has to do with chipset encryption.
That's
Be my
my
guess.
suspicion was.
Well,
it had to
iOS
do
we
with-
know, but only kind of.
Right.
It doesn't make full sense. Like there's 32-bit iOS devices that will still be supported.
So yeah, it seems like kind of scattershot.
Well, EFI was clear that we had like this source of truth
Oh, that's
fact on
true,
disk
too.
that made it very easy. If you got EFI 64-bit, you're in the common era. You can move forward. So I don't know what their what they're gonna say is their token of this is why it can't be on the conveyor belt into the future.
Yeah, I think there's some commonality between those machines that got dropped that I'm missing. My suspicion is that it has something to do with the chipset, and they're optimizing the OS in a way that those older chips can't
I mean,
or don't
it's
do.
not like it's Core i7 and that's
No.
the AES.
Right,
So,
right. For encryption, but it might be something else.
true. I mean,
There might be something
Integrated
else.
graphics, maybe. And then, but then we were talking about the Mac Pro, which was the triple channel, which would be an architecture.
Yeah, right. They're getting rid of
question.
some of the cheese grater Macs.
Oh, yeah. It's
And
only one that's gonna live.
Maybe there's not
Yeah.
just one
That's the
reason. Maybe
2010.
it's a couple of reasons.
maybe.
I mean,
But-
Apple going Apple, right? I mean, if you want a reason,
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the way it is.
and people who want to hack are gonna hack
Yeah,
around it.
I mean, I have to say that I guess we had a really long period of like 10.9, 10.10, 10.11. It's like, oh my gosh, 7-year-old machines are still supported to run this. So
Yeah, practically 10 fun.
So cutting a few machines is, all right, that's life in the technology.
At this point, I'm kind of surprised anything from 2009 is still running, like in a lot of cases. Like, unless you've replaced the hard drive already or whatever, right? Like put an SSD in it.
Well, the older big cheese grater Macs.
Those are great, right?
Those are
Those
great.
are-
People are hanging on to them. They upgrade the graphics card, and they're still powerful machines. So
I still have one in service.
yeah. So I don't know, but I don't think it affects us that much.
I'm sure we have some machines that are old. That just might be like, yeah, here's a new one.
I mean, there will always be people that it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like my machine; it works just fine. Like,
Well, the Puppet 4 issues, you guys remember with the,
Yeah, resolved that now.
they resolved that only after 6 months of prodding, but I think that helped to understand that there were still some with the Core 2 Duo-ish family of, it's even like
Yeah.
Core I's,
Yeah.
but Core
Yeah,
I's are
well,
old
there's a
enough.
few products that haven't had issues, like.
Yeah.
You know, the factory stuff crashes and OS query people having the same problem. So it's
Right.
not-
Built-in for old enough. Yeah, Homebrew is just such a friggin' pain in everybody's ass about that.
well, I saw Homebrew announce like it'll work, but there will be formulas or recipes that won't work, right?
You mean the thing they recorded last year that they're taking back this year? Yeah.
No. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Like,
They're just my favorite people in the world. The Homebrew people, so.
why? Like, do you expect this stuff to work on a new OS?
I
right
don't
out of beta
expect-
seed of it?
I don't expect Homebrew to think that they just aren't the best, and so why don't things accommodate to them in a way? Like every other thing that could use user local, for example. Like they
Yeah.
have unfortunate ways of doing things where it's not like in your face that they're going to cause issues possibly for anything else. There's just no checks. They bulldoze
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. And then the building stuff for only the architecture that you're on. As if
Yeah,
every
yeah.
developer actually wants that.
Right. Yeah.
It's
There
kind
should
of
be
bizarre.
some ways. You want to build something with Homebrew and then distribute it.
Many people might,
Yes.
even though
I
it's the
can see
lingua
that.
franca of, hey, get some source, built from source stuff on your machine. I understand that.
Yeah. I've been installing Homebrew in my home directory, and I haven't had any problems. I know they sort of say like, "Oh, there might be things that don't work with this," but it's actually been a fairly decent way of dealing with it and not stomping all over user local.
Tim
Having-
Sutton's brew bus is how I've solved a whole bunch of problems. Just the fact that I can make the completely portable, just that product installer in
Oh, yeah?
one step. Yeah.
I haven't seen this.
He mentioned it at Mac System in, if not last year, I'm pretty sure it was last year. That it's like, it's this gist. It makes Brew build you a package with all of Brew's dependencies, but it's completely stonewalled off from just like the rest of anything.
Oh, cool.
And therefore you can run that one off on the architecture that you need, capture it, you know that it's compatible, and then you just need to test forward.
Oh, nice. I'll check that out. Was he the one who also wrote, he had something that let you package things up with Homebrew. Did he write that?
Brewbus is a packaging up with Homebrew
Oh, okay.
that
Then
makes its own faux root of wherever Homebrew wants to live.
right, but then No, it makes a
And then-
Mac installer package.
I'm not sure if that isn't one of the other things that
Okay.
he's done homebrew.
Maybe that's a piece of it. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Since we're all here locally, how is everyone dealing with watching WDC? Just as you can? Do you take work time to do it? Do you go home
My
in the
phone
evening?
died yesterday, so I had to watch it last night, but I didn't watch the whole thing. So
Bits and pieces as I can. Still haven't gotten through most of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I watched a little bit yesterday when it was quiet, and then got called off on emergency nonsense for.
Yeah, I mean, that can be kind of frustrating. I feel like this is the first year I haven't been in San Francisco for WDC in quite some time. And last year I went, the last 2 years I went, but I didn't get a ticket. You know, I wasn't one of the lucky few that got a ticket. But it still made it easier to like, okay, I've scoped out the time this week to watch this stuff. So yeah, this year, I don't know. I feel I'm looking at all these sessions going like, oh man,
No,
these are
that's fine,
amazing,
that's
and I
fine.
can't wait to see this, and I can't wait to watch that, and it can be kind of a challenge.
I feel like I'm
The
always.
live streams, yes.
I haven't had time, to be honest.
Yeah.
I watched the keynote live, but I
Right.
just watched most of the platform stuff this morning. I need to finish it off, and then I want to watch the file system one, and then I want.
Yeah, but it's live in the app. I didn't even realize that. So
Oh
it's-
yeah. They're live streaming the
That's
sessions, which is great. Like kudos to Apple for making this easier for people because they realize like we have too much demand for the show. So they've been doing a fantastic job with like helping people get this information.
Recordeds aren't going so live so fast when it comes to being posted there. But State of the Union was about like 6 this morning.
Yeah.
In my app, so.
So yeah, all said and done, great. I'm glad they're able to get this stuff out. But me personally, like I'm finding it a struggle. I'm wondering how other people are who haven't
Just add it to the list of all the conference
Add it to
videos
the-
I have to watch and all the other sessions here and there.
Yeah, I definitely find like I have a love-hate relationship with videos from conferences, WDC or otherwise, because I'm almost never going to watch them.
I have a directory full of things, and it's like, okay, well, this one's 2 years old now, so I could probably just get rid of it because it's outdated.
Right. At some point, you either need that information or you don't, and you're going to learn it, or it's going to sort of just die away in this folder.
yesterday, my son tells me, always chance coming out, but if Steve Jobs was alive right now, everybody would have had it right now.
Yeah.
You know, he says it's available right now. The download.
Yeah, it was a confusing announcement, right? When we watched it, the keynote, it kind of almost sounded like, oh, you're going to be able to get this in
In the
July
fall.
or something.
I took when I listening to it and making funny comments, I marvelously missed the details. But I thought that it was like, oh, yeah, it's not coming in July.
It's in the fall.
I wasn't listening, and then
Yeah, I
Tom
was
tells
like-
us, no, you can download from the developer site right now. I was like, what, really? I thought, didn't he just say it's not available today? All right. I don't know.
Yeah, public bid, I guess, is up to that.
Yeah, public beta is not available till next month.
Yeah,
The whole
public.
thing felt kind of rushed. It seems kind of like they just had so much that they just kind of rushed through everything.
Yeah, the keynote was.
Not with the iOS stuff,
Sure.
though. They spent their sweet time on that.
I think I liked the presenter who did Apple Music when she came out.
Oh,
I liked her a lot. She wasn't the most polished speaker ever, but she had energy and she was
Yeah.
She was
fun.
energetic, but
But I think it also sucked up a lot of time. I think that wound up using a lot of time.
Yeah.
That they didn't expect.
Well, the last several WWDCs, it's the keynote. I'm like, nothing of this is interesting to me, and it's the platforms.
Oh,
The platforms and the other sessions are all, and like the stuff. The keynote, I'm like, this is wrong. I don't care. Like,
Well-
no, I don't think there was anything in the keynote they talked about. I was like, that's awesome. It was all like,
I will admit that the loss of Steve Jobs feels like it hurt them. Because Steve Jobs made like everything interesting and compelling and
so let me rephrase a little bit. Even like the Steve Jobs WWDC keynotes, they tended to be stuff that
totally.
sure, maybe at the time RDF is in full force and you're like, that's amazing. But looking back, like, no, actually none of that stuff I really cared about.
But you cared about it at the time because Steve Jobs was saying it. Right? Like it's like, oh my God, new iMessages.
oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He took the most boring, non-developery stuff. I don't know. I'm obviously all the presenters at Apple now, I think, They're polished, and Federighi's
Yeah, Federighi's getting
really
a lot
good.
of playtime. Yeah,
But he's
yeah.
not trying to copy Jobs. They've all been
No,
sort of informed
no,
by Jobs,
no.
but like especially Federighi's not copying.
Yeah.
He's got his thing, and he's really good. Did
I wonder why Ice
Schiller
never
didn't
gave
come
up.
out at all, did he?
Johnny Ice, I wonder why he never talked.
No,
Johnny
no, I
Ice
have no
never goes
Schiller
the history of
show this
WDC never goes up
Probably
there
got
and
more
talk.
important things to do, you would think.
Yeah.
Do designing hardware or whatever. He's probably
Cashing
busy.
checks.
Yeah, exactly.
Managing his bank accounts. All right. So then, did anyone see anything that scares the hell out of them? Any announcements that like this is going to ruin my life or be difficult for me as a Mac admin? You know what I'm saying, right? Like this is going to cause me problems. I'm going to have to re-architect everything.
I still have something positive, but I think
No, go. We want positivity.
the login system. Everybody.
Oh,
ignores
right,
it.
right, right,
Yeah, no, yeah, so-
Actually,
yeah, like that's something
iCloud-
I'm interested in, but I want to see, like, I haven't actually looked at it yet, but I want to see, I think getting stuff into the logging system is unchanged, whatever 1,000 different ways to log stuff, and it'll just end up in a slightly different backend. But we need to look and see, like, I want to see exactly what that, say, storing in memory, and I want to see how that actually looks in practice, and then I'm assuming you just point at a different API stuff how that you want.
Yeah. So I've been playing around. Well, they have a command line tool. It feels a lot like if you play the system V in journal control.
Hmm.
It feels a lot like a journal. So you just tell it, whatever PID you want to process, or like any PID less than 100, or they have. It's sort of like it has grep built in, so you can
Yes.
figure.
So the new console app is kind of interesting, and in like the 2 seconds that I looked at it, it's like the syslog command currently lets you compose these very complex and specific queries to pull things out of ASL, and it looks like they have that in console now. The search field kind of lets you do that, which is really cool. And I didn't get to explore it too deeply, but they have like categories now, right? So when we were looking at it, like there's a whole category of speech. So like all the Siri stuff is under speech, which kind of cool. I mean, they also had to do something because Apple themselves are just flooding the logs with so much information now that like if you just look at the raw logs, you're like, I can't keep up.
Yeah, especially
So-
if you turn it, if you just increase the verbosity by like 1 notch from like notice down to info, it's like,
Yeah,
which we do internally. Is
right. Tons of stuff. So being able to say like, all right, I'm interested in this category of information or issues or errors or whatever. So that looks really handy.
So they got rid of warning.
Yes,
Yep.
that's true.
So that's also a positive.
Yeah, I think with all the Unixy stuff, it's really nice that I think it's nice that Apple sort of like adopts the default Unixy thing first and then slowly change, right? Because like we used to have an init. We used to have all the old init stuff, and then they slowly were like, all right, we have this launch D thing, but you still have cron, you still have all these things, and like they slowly just started like, okay, launch D is doing everything, and for a long time, we had plain old Unix syslog, and then they slowly started like, oh, well, now it's ASL, but it does everything syslog did sort of just the same way, and it's still familiar. And then like they'll slowly just start molding it into something a little bit more modern.
Do you think they do that for the user side, or do you think they do that because they're making improvements on the back end as they go, and then
Oh,
to
yeah.
support the future changes?
Yes, the latter, yes. They're not doing it for the users.
It's
Which
a
is fine.
It's a head start to get them to a state where they can work from,
Right.
and then it's how do we customize this to our needs as Apple. So like they can start links too. So
Yeah.
damaging.
I have to say
Not
there's
anymore.
one thing about the logs that I wasn't impressed with, which is they let you switch the log to a key value log, which would make it really amazing to like
Yeah.
centralize. But they don't offer you as a developer to write logs as key values. So like the key value will tell you like the process it's coming for and whatever, but there's no way of saying A equals B and C equals B and whatever,
And log it.
and log it as key values as separate key values.
Oh, yeah. maybe some future filer radar.
Yeah, it seems more like a someday kind of thing. Like once it's off the ground,
Yeah.
the APIs are stable and everything.
Or that they just haven't baked the implementation to get it in yet. No, they haven't got to bake the implementation to get it out. But it's now it's the radar and put on open radar and tweak the open radar link and quick radar. I can do it, and now is the month. This is the month.
This is it.
Do not pass code. Do not collect $7.
Oh, I know what I was just saying. Swift playgrounds.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Very, very cool. I want that on the Mac. That's my only gripe. My only gripe is I want that on the Mac. As much
it's weird.
as iOS. Like I have an iOS device, I'll get to run it, but it still feels like I should be able to just run it on the Mac. Maybe they'll
You
eventually
can load it on your iPad and send it to your Mac and keep on going.
Yeah, kind of. But like, I'm excited about that. I think it looked really cool. It looks like a great way, obviously, to use the playgrounds, but also to learn, which I think is amazing that they're helping push all that.
And they're saying right out of the gate that it's an open document standard that wants people to essentially make another document store, another web place for people to submit to.
I didn't hear that. Nice.
And that you can export and import into Xcode is crazy.
Yes, I heard them say that, which is excellent. I mean, you'd have to do that because right now the playgrounds don't let you compile.
You don't have to as a teaching tool. You don't
Yes.
have to as
But I'm
proof
saying
of concept demo. you
yes,
know?
proof of concept, exactly, and you're just playing around. But now you have this code, you're like, oh, this could be a real thing.
And I really like the for kids. Like they even say it, and that's okay. You know?
Yeah.
Because 1980 something Mac was for kids, right?
Yeah.
That was for kids, right? You need real work done. And this guy does like a freaking tessellation pattern as he's like finger painting, like code comes out in the demo, and I'm kind of like, all right, that requires actual knowledge.
Yeah.
And he's been able to do a live coding demo with touch is kind of
And
like
not use the keyboard.
yeah.
Which is really
For the majority.
for the majority of it.
Yeah.
Didn't use the keyboard.
What do you think
Very
about the new feature on the watch, Scribble? So now you can.
You know what? Again, I don't have one of the watches. And when he demoed that, the first thing I said is like, don't they have that already? I can swear, didn't they have that?
They have a way to send a doodle.
A doodle,
They
but
don't
you
call it a scribble, and it's not a text transcription method.
Okay, so they're bringing back graffiti.
That's they're very, very good. That's
I
absolutely.
was just thinking of Pablos.
Yeah, which
Back
is
in the day.
fine. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Because typing on the you can't write like that's the best input method for the watch, I guess.
Well, the hilarious part of that demo, like annoying, like American part of the demo is that she's doing Chinese characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
sure,
they're
so-
like whitewashing yet another part that should have been played by the ethnicity. That
Didn't
and
she
I'm
say
like,
she was learning?
she's
Chinese?
learning the language, like it's those people who take it that far that make everybody who's moderate seem like they're also a tree hugger, liberal, politically correct, crazy. And it's kind of like, but I'm like, am I right now? Like, was she whitewashing the
Yeah. No.
It's freaking bizarre that
She said she
America
was-
has those conversations on a regular basis. But obviously, I'm following the right Twitter.
Maybe because I
If I
fortunately
wasn't following the right
I
Twitter,
fortunately
I
didn't
would
hear-
know that.
I didn't hear any of that. So.
Obviously.
But I kind of remember her saying like, "I'm learning."
Yes, she had no other reason to demo that. I mean, really. And also, I'm proud of them that they probably got UTF-8 right. Like, you know, like,
Right. I think Apple takes a lot of care in getting multiple languages right and gets accessibility. They focus on that stuff, and it works pretty well.
The image previews in Swift and Xcode now.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. The fact that they're making it a multimedia format, essentially.
So on the Hangouts, Jay Baker says, Scribble seems to work quite well in my minor use today. So I guess people are getting the new OS on the watch.
What the hell, man?
Damn it.
Obviously, it was Jay Baker.
They also mentioned a lot of additions, I guess, to iCloud and all this syncing and backing up, which it sounds great.
Oh yeah, desktop and documents.
Yeah.
They only mention desktop in the keynote.
If you allow it in your organization, that's great. But if you don't, from a
Yeah.
security standpoint,
all that stuff.
you know,
Well, iCloud isn't HIPAA compliant, so it's not happening.
Right.
Yeah, that was my comment after the keynote. It's like, here's the list of features that your security department should tell you to say. Yes.
But it's also like, I mean, we already do that because we don't want people's iCloud.
Yeah,
I mean, we have hard enough time.
Right, but I mean, it's just,
Remember the
it's
damn
especially,
password.
it's especially noticeable during the macOS section of the keynote. It was all like,
Yeah.
There we go. Found it.
I mean, we can be laissez-faire about certain things.
Sure.
Like many things, like, I don't know, backing up their damn devices, which makes me hit the Apple file system. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna totally convert in place. That's gonna be great, Mickey.
Yeah.
Like, certainly, that sounds so simple. I mean, convert over a file system, but that one was kind of like, I called it like a couple of years ago that you're gonna log in just like you have iCloud backup, but they're starting with just desktop and documents is bizarre because most regular end users don't care where the heck the files go. They don't care where they live.
They don't, but I think the presentation during the keynote was dead on. People just like drop stuff on the desktop.
And that's where they think it lives.
And that's where
what
it
they
lives,
need
right,
when
that's-
they are working.
Yeah.
I see that, but also like, where's all of your application state and data and
well,
preferences?
Well, that's
settings?
in the
That's not one of the directories.
but if
you know?
if they
No,
get to it though, at some point, you won't need to worry about that. It's gonna be in the Mac App Store. Once you restore, it'll just
Right.
pull right down
It
from
already
there.
syncs via the hidden library. You
Right.
don't need to
I
access
was
it
just gonna
directly
say.
unless you're a MacAdmin.
Yeah, and the local item
Exactly.
chain was gangbusters. Oh man, that was the easiest thing ever.
Right.
But
It
another
just works, you know, like
another interesting thing they
you
added
have to
though with it
reboot to
was
kill the damn thing.
Yeah.
They-
What if you haven't rebooted to anything?
they're talking about now deleting files that are older than a certain amount of time to like
Oh,
clear up
space
storage.
saving stuff?
Yeah, and that, you know,
Oh, but wasn't that something you had to run yourself as a cleanup?
I
I saw it briefly. It reminded me of the thing that they have in Windows, which actually works fairly well. It's like, hey, you're running low on disk space. Here's what's using up all your space.
is that like a disk
Do you want
cleanup
a
tool
disk
in
cleanup
Windows?
tool? That's what it reminded me of.
They had a.
I haven't
for a
used that
long
since
time.
like '98.
Windows.
Yeah, on Windows.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being like very impressive. It's always like your internet cache, and it's kind of like
Right.
that's why the cookies. Like, I go, then I'm picking up on this cookie. I don't know how much of that was the Apple file system or not. Like, but then
I
again,
don't
it's
know.
not ready.
No,
so,
I don't think that was it.
I don't think that was
No,
it.
that was
And
that
it's
was
not
things like
like-
the installer is like, you gotta uninstall this to delete this .pkg thing I have that I installed from. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Which-
install it
is
with
that
some
the
magic.
implementation? Because like
That's part of it, and I think other things they might just track. I mean, I don't know.
it could be. I mean,
At this point, I haven't actually used it.
they were demoing it and they were like, this is the bar graph. That's the super oversimplified system information bar graph, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like this person had 16 gigabytes of documents, and I'm like, you had 16 gigabytes of documents? Like, who are you? What do you do?
Video
Like,
editor.
I either have a VM that's like 80 gigs, but it's not like memory compression, you know?
No.
Memory compression, you turn on a switch and you wave the magic wand and it works. Storage, we're gonna optimize that. Like, I don't know how you do that without the Apple file system or some other aggressive thing.
They were
that
talking
becomes
about they were talking
user-facing.
about like
Well-
caching old files, unused files to iCloud.
Sure,
Yeah.
iCloud, right.
It's on iCloud.
And then
That's,
beyond that, they'll do other magic with like stuff that sits around on your desktop. Right?
So that could have been what they meant.
Yes.
It's interesting that
Yeah,
they're
like that.
doing this. It's sort of like the same announcement as Dropbox, right? Where they're
Yeah, yeah,
doing a custom-
Project Infinite.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's very,
The
very
streaming?
similar to that.
So they could be streaming out the files to
Well,
iCloud. It could be.
my guess is even with the desktop is that, it actually does because it's copying these files at no cost, is that, whenever you put something on the desktop, it also copies it
Yeah.
somewhere else. So you can
Right, but
back
that
to-
requires the lack of cost.
Yeah.
Like bandwidth, like everything else that needs to do the function. But it does make
iCloud
sense.
storage is fairly expensive, right? Compared
It
to
is.
other,
Yeah.
compared to other storage like
It's gonna
Drive or Dropbox or whatever. I think the equivalent amount of iCloud storage last time I looked was fairly expensive.
It's
They've gotten
funny
better, but it doesn't mean that they're staying competitive because
Right.
they do not care about staying competitive.
with like
It's always
family,
market.
It's funny how Apple hooked everybody with iCloud, sort of, especially with iPhones, because the data you used to have on iPhones, and everybody had a 16 gig iPhone, wasn't much. And so, Apple gave you those 5 gigs for free, and you were like, I'm good. People were good for years.
Yeah.
And then now I have like a lot of friends and family members who are like saying, I can't back up my phone anymore, and all the time. And I'm like, you gotta pay Apple money.
Or back it up to iTunes, which I find is much more reliable anyway.
Where my dad ups his Verizon plan because he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's tough to get people to understand that, but iCloud is. I find like it just doesn't get everything that you want it to get. I do restores from iCloud, and like
it's not complete.
It's missing everything, right? Like,
must be storing the HFS.
But yeah, I back up to.
It's confusing. I was on vacation to Puerto Rico, and while being there, I had to fix my mother's phone because she has an iPhone. Every time somebody sends me an email here or calls me, she gets a call in Puerto Rico, and she's like, "Come here, fix this for me." And I'm like, "What's going on?" So I had to change a lot. Huh?
You broke it.
She gets all my stuff. She gets pictures that he's not supposed to get.
There's some explaining to
That sounds like a feature.
Because you're sharing an iCloud account?
Yeah, I think that's the reason. So I had to like take off.
Yeah, iCloud.
And then my job just gave me this phone, and they told me, "Oh, just put in your iCloud account." So now on this phone, I'm getting my stuff from my other phone. I'm like, I don't need my job phone.
iCloud is definitely Apple seems all their so like it's a personal solution. It's It's not meant for sharing.
Doesn't give you a lot of
like when they first came out with iCloud and back to my Mac, I was like, awesome, to be great for support. Like, no, this was very specifically back to my.
Well, it's everything Apple, right? That comes back to your point. Fine. Like, what's the scary thing? And it's been the same scary thing for 10 years, which is Apple makes things for individuals, and here I am trying to shoehorn it into a corporation, right? Like, that's always the challenge.
I guess it would just be cool to have the ability to like, hey, you can use iCloud, but if you're an enterprise, you also get the choice of through a profile, right? Because that's how they would implement it. Not enable some of these features.
Well, you can do that on iOS. One of our struggles is like, oh, you can disable all this stuff on iOS. Let's just take that profile and put it on the Mac. It doesn't do anything.
And that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Because like maybe some organizations fine with the whole, backing up the desktop and documents, but they don't want that, watch OS unlocking feature because that's a security issue, or whatever the case might be, So that would be cool to see, but I don't know that even giving them feedback at this point will result in any sort of.
This is the only time to get them feedback. Only time.
Right. I just don't think they're going to implement that in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
You gotta
do it.
So I guess we've been talking about that. You mentioned it earlier. So what's the process if you do have feedback for
affected install count? Tell them how many machines you have.
Bug reporter.
Bug reporter?
Yeah.
Tell them that you're in a media industry that they care about. And if you're using Final Cut and that somehow it's going to stop the workflow, they want to know that. If you're doing music production, they want to see swag.
They've been more responsive lately on the bug report.
You think so? I can't tell.
We pay
They
for
probably did a big bug smash.
I have 4 bugs that I filed, and they're all following up.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a different company, I think. A little bit.
It's bizarre. You've been getting calls from another dimension.
No, I mean, that's good to hear. I mean, it seems like they're trying to clean up some of these things.
Has anyone here actually used or set up or played with the new profile manager?
We know one person who has. And it's it's gonna be more of the same.
I was just curious if they added any new payloads or features, options.
Oh, profile manager in server.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Not configurator, but profile manager.
That session is coming tomorrow. We're going to talk about mobile device management in general. I poked around a little. There's something that I'm excited in, but I didn't see in the interface, which is the ability to add identity preferences through a profile.
It's kind of crazy that they're like, yeah, we'll take this cert or for exchange setup or whatever it is, whatever you need that is cert-based authentication, and we'll throw it at the disk. And then if you are throwing it at the disk, anything has read access to it. It's just kind of like, I mean, once you can elevate any way that you're reading from the system keychain, but it's like, why are there no ACLs on that whatsoever? Just because I pushed it with MDM, isn't that kind of like not the point of managing things? Is to let it be read by anything on the system?
The thing is, and I don't know what are there ACLs for this?
There are there's a whole list, right? And that
Right.
second tab, but then when you're looking at info about
So
keychain,
I was trying last week to add.
you were expecting this to be.
I was trying to add Monkey uses an SURL session, so whatever's in the keychain, you add an identity preference, it should just read that. So I was trying to add a profile. The thing is, there's an access list to a cert that gets added through, in my case, SCEP, but I'm guessing the profile payload as well, the cert payload as well. And it's limited, the SCEP one is limited to a very specific set of binaries. And you can't really edit after the fact, edit the ACL after the fact. They have another setting for, just approve, whitelist everything, which is what Monkey does. You put the cert on the, in some folder, and you say import, and it automatically
With all
whitelists everything for that cert.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that, I mentioned to Apple, because I was like, so you have a profile, I can add a cert. I also want to add an identity preference, and I also want to set an access list for which binaries can access it. And I found that there's the payload, there's com.apple.security.certificate and com.apple.security.identity preference. So now it seems like they're adding some of those features, but they're not in the interface yet.
Yeah, so they did release a beta of server in general, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did, and they killed home directory sector.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense. To be honest, that never worked well. Like, I'm happy to see that
There are
go.
people who try to use it.
Absolutely, and like, if Apple offers it, people should expect to try to use it, but that was always miserable. Like, I would rather see them kill it off and like make people come up with some.
I can definitely confirm it's still miserable. My colleague in London uses it because we have hot desking at our front desk, and different users use the machines, and it's pretty much always a nightmare whenever you have to reboot anything or whenever you have trouble and you have to shut the computer off and then turn it back on. Tons of trouble. Not worth the hassle. Not worth the network load. Not even worth it.
Even with a good network, giggy everywhere,
Not even
it's
worth it.
miserable.
So now they're doing that with iCloud,
Right.
right?
Hey, they went 1-to-1.
Yeah.
I guess.
Hey, you had that experience over here. Here's an even better one.
Well,
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
An even better, worse experience?
The other thing.
Well, they have that caching server, iCloud caching.
So the other thing is
server.
they're not
As of the
killing
last
yet,
version, they always say it.
but they've removed the software update server from the view.
Yes, that's
You
right.
have to go specifically to a certain menu. They said that in a future version it will be.
Gone.
It'll be removed.
Which is fine, because again, it's another one of those things where if people don't know how to tune it properly or what the workflow is around it,
Yeah.
what their expectations are.
There's also a networking solution to that problem. Like a lot of networking hardware has caching built in, so you can cache all this
Really?
stuff. Some of it. I have Meraki gear that caches popular downloads. I'm like,
Oh,
so the first.
HTTP,
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
a LAN
server.
optimizer or something like that, maybe.
unless you're
Okay.
Yeah, they can't. They use
Unless you're
what's that? They use Squid. All the Meraki gear uses Squid. I know that I have to say.
Yeah, I don't think we use it. No, we don't use the Meraki optimization because we have split.
I'm not sure how that would work with Apple's services. That
So
potentially seems like not even a
would
great
that
idea.
mean they're just getting rid of software update server completely?
They are, so you're gonna have to use their cache
I was gonna say,
service.
Yeah.
My hope is that the client is still gonna work the same way as it used to, so that you could use Reposado.
Right.
If you
Hopefully.
care.
It's
about
weird
it.
because like at least in the current release, you can see in the system logs they're pointing to a current catalog that has like 10.12 developer preview, then 10.12 whatever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Does this grow the catalog name again? Is it something crazy like
They've just added to it, but this time there's like
Jaguar all the way up through whatever it is.
it's yeah.
Yep.
They did add a utility though for caching server so that you can actually like analyze, what's on your network and if it's connecting or not, which is pretty neat.
In OS 10 server.
No,
Oh.
in the client in 10.12.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't exist already?
No.
No. It is a big old black box.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you can turn up verbose logging, so you can tell server side that things are happening. And you can tell what IPs and what model device IDs, what models and what OS versions they're running.
Asset cache locator util.
But you have no way to like triangulate after the fact if something has happened, or no way to say, okay, it's not happening now, why?
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
like it's gonna jump forward, it's gonna do all
I
the
mean, this
things
is a
it
stupid
needs to do.
question, but is it still needed?
Which
What?
Yeah.
Like, aren't we better off paying for more bandwidth than?
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering the same thing.
I mean,
so
I mean, like, okay, 10 years
make
ago, absolutely, we need,
you
software
mean-
update server.
You mean software update
Right.
server or
Yeah.
caching
Yeah.
or
server?
both. I mean, I could see in certain environments maybe caching update server would be beneficial.
Like if you
but
have-
don't have
if you've
anybody
got
using
300 by
Ethernet,
300 or 500 by, like at some point, like
Do you have machines using Ethernet?
Yeah.
So do you have automatic updates turned on those computers?
Yeah.
So you didn't notice the kernel extension blacklist that went out early?
yeah. Well, I mean, so there's those kind of updates.
So there's
right?
those kind of updates, but then there's also so I have a reporting app that I made that just parses the logs when you turn up the verbose logging. We have a 10 to 20x hit ratio on the server for iOS updates. It is very nice to my network team when we have
Absolutely.
we have 802.11
Right, but
eight.
okay, so
Wow.
I guess maybe the question
So-
is better phrased. Like, at what point is it diminishing returns, right? Like, so I run caching update, I run software update server, Ripsato, and like it gets a lot of use.
Yeah.
But is it really worth the maintenance cost at some point? Like, so I download, let's say El Capitan, right? The first time it takes 5 minutes. The next time it takes 30 seconds or whatever. But that's only going to get less dramatic as the years
So
go on, in
maintenance-
theory, right? Assuming it faster
so
and
maintenance
faster.
cost is time and being able to keep up with changes. And things like that,
Electricity
right?
and server and
Sure.
hardware and personnel and all these
So
things.
not just to butter up to our hosts, but like Simeon has a way that it configures the catalogs, where it essentially syncs the catalogs in, and unless I'm incorrect because the code is moved and changed, you're not getting it delivered from Simeon's server instance. You're still pointed against Apple for the download because Apple has signed packages, there's other digests and verifications that you'll use. But Reposado will still tell you, essentially Reposado, right? Will still tell you what to do, and they just auto-promote after a time period because they don't want to worry about it, but they still want like a sharded testing rollout.
Right.
So they don't have maintenance because they built it into their tools. That's their workflow. And then if you have a caching server, the delivery of that is you're caching and delivering, like you're caching and delivering, and that is something that's kind of like a set and forget.
Right.
So I don't think that there's an overwhelming cost for when you need to hit the e-stop, right?
Right.
Because the e-stop will save you time, right? Like so there's the opportunity cost if you can't hit the e-stop. Like when Apple changes the home folder to 777 because of an iTunes update.
Right.
Like stuff that's just like bonkers. It just happens, and it happens regularly.
But that's a tertiary issue,
Right, I was gonna say, that's a different
a
issue,
management issue, not a caching or an update issue.
I think you're
But
right. That's like a
mitigation-
control.
that's your
That's a
only
control
mitigation.
issue.
honestly, we could put this in a spreadsheet that just about everyone could use. It's like number of devices times average bandwidth times the bandwidth you have.
Right. Yeah. So, like, let's say I'm getting ready to roll out the latest, greatest update, having caching server there, having Ripsato there. Tremendous benefit for that one day, right? But on a day-to-day basis, like,
Well,
I don't know. I'm
get,
just
a
throwing the
daily
idea
report
out
and a
there.
weekly report from caching server, and that's the most set it and forget it part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I just look at my ratios of how much was saved in bandwidth, and my networking likes me. You know, like,
I've actually been meaning to ask. This is like slightly off the topic, but like, I don't think I have that many apps installed on my iOS devices. Like, I'm not one of those like install everything. I have a basic core set of apps. I see on average on just my own like iPad and iPhone an average of 8 updates a day. Is that normal?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's like, it feels like a lot. Like, are these many things getting updated? And of course, most of them are like, we provide bug fixes every 2 weeks to keep you happy. And like, geez, I guess those hit all the time. But like, I get an average of 8 updates a day on each of my devices because I basically have the same apps.
Sounds like a
installed.
scene out of Office Space.
But like, is that a
8
normal?
updates, Bob. 8.
I
But
got
like,
3 right
I
now.
feel like, is this normal or is this?
I feel like it's
I mean,
I got
And
3
I don't,
right now.
and I don't have automatic updates turned on, so I see them. Right, they pile up to some point, and all of a sudden I get the badge. That
I mean,
says,
you can also look at that as a positive thing. You know, for a lot of things that you're working on, bug fixes and improvements are usually a positive.
Sure.
thing.
Well, I see one of the good updates that
Cultural shift.
he's got an update
Right?
for picture to
Yeah,
picture on
just
Netflix. That's kind of cool.
yes, I'm happy to get new features. I'm happy for all these things, but I wasn't sure how that measured with other people's devices. Like, it feels like
It also
a lot.
depends on how many apps you have. I mean, like,
I don't think I have that many.
I got like 4 screens worth of stuff and 2 every couple of days.
Really? Do you have auto updates turned on? You just don't notice them?
On the work one, no, but on the work I only have like
so
2-ish.
according to my phone, I have 135 apps installed, which is surprising.
Because you don't see 135.
I mean, I have
How
some
many?
games on 135. I have some games on here, but I do also have quite a few utilities, and I mean, like,
Well, games don't seem to update as much as all the other crap, right?
not really. You're right.
Right? A game sort of just releases, and unless there's something horrible.
I'm at like between 3 and 5 updates a day.
Huh.
Most days.
I've been curious about that, just comparing with other people, because
I don't like
it feels like a lot. And of course, it's never up to date, right? So it'll say like the badge will say 7, and you tap on it and go into the thing. It's like, nope, 15.
12,
Damn it! And then it goes and checks again. You're like,
It's
wow,
been a whole
15.
45 seconds, so.
Yeah, or whatever. But I think caching server helps with those
Oh,
types
absolutely.
of things, you know.
I mean, it also
So-
depends on like the nature of your business. Like I work for a fine art company. We exchange large files all the time.
Yep.
So the difference between a 350 megabyte TIFF file and, you know, a couple of gigs. and
How do
updates
you
is
exchange
fairly
those
minimal.
files? Out of curiosity.
We
Is it
have
iCloud or Dropbox.
no. We have a central picture library where we keep all of our media in a really, really organized fashion.
Using OS 10 server. Using,
Intern?
It's a no.
Just up to date.
No,
Not
no.
us.
It's a application that lives on a server externally. I don't know exactly what hardware it runs on off the top of my head.
Okay.
'Cause that's
a
outside
service.
It's a dam.
It's a
It's
service.
It's a DAM, but it lives on our equipment.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
You run
yeah.
it. It's internal.
Yeah,
It's
it lives
a
on our equipment.
commercial
It's-
product that lives on your.
Yeah, that we kind of made some tweaks and
Share
modifications
it or
to.
one of those.
I don't even know what
Media
it's called.
beacon.
Yeah. Okay.
It's something
That's
that's
all the time
outside of
maybe.
my
Something
area.
through database.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
idea.
I mean, it's something that it's not something that I really deal with intimately.
But you're also distributed.
yes, we're Zurich, London, New York, and now Los Angeles.
So how does that work? Does it cache those files around, or
Uh,
on demand, or?
It does not cache them around. We are actually moving to a new service in the next several months that does distribute,
Okay.
that runs on an AWS backbone. But what we currently have now does not distribute, and it's caused issues for our furthest.
Right. I was going to say between LA and
Even
New York.
I would say even
any
in New York.
offices, yeah.
In New York, it's a problem, and LA is actually less of a problem because it takes a slightly different route out and across the Atlantic, believe it or not. So it's actually LA actually is slightly less terrible than it is in New York for that particular service.
Interesting.
But we move large images. It's not just that. We do Google Drive because we have unlimited.
Right.
Google Apps Unlimited, and that's a really easy way for users to be able to put things someplace and make it accessible to coworkers in a way that's not like scary. Doesn't look,
Yeah.
it's not complicated. They can manage. Dropbox, because we get sent files from Dropbox from clients or studios or whatever. Also WeTransfer, which has recently been a big problem. Like, it's just not reliable download.
The Nintendo thing?
Was. No. WE, not WI.
Yeah.
No.
Got it.
But it's, if you're set up like we are to move around lots of data,
Right.
issues like you guys were talking about become less of a problem, really. Also, we run a fairly managed environment, and my users are kind of, at this point, they're not really comfortable updating anything on their own. They really don't like doing that. We don't give local admin to any of our users. Well, they just know that we take care of everything for them. We push out updates when it comes time to update the OS on your computer. Like, we come find you and talk to you.
Well, also in your case, especially, I've been support for artists in the past, and I know like Adobe products will break between major upgrades. Like, you don't want them getting in that state. Like, yeah, sure, just go update. I can't do any work.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think back to the point, like, it really kind of depends on your environment, how much bandwidth you have, how many users.
It comes back to like the consumer versus corporate thing. I think you have like a very holistic view on it. Like, always be analyzing, like, do I really need to be running this service here? And then like and also where, like, I at this point, like, most of my services I wish I had in the cloud, even though they're all like historically have been local server room type things. It's like it's becoming less and less advantageous to have it there, and more advantageous. Like, even the partners at this company that I'm at now, as conservative and old school as they are, they're like, well, why can't I do this at home? Because you want me to control the data, right? And I can't do that. Or the previous CTO refused to do that via the cloud. So it's like reanalyzing that constantly. It's the only reason I brought up that question. Like, do I really need this here, there, now? Like,
if we didn't have multiple data centers, one of which is an $80,000 a month refrigerator because there's no machines moved into it yet, so you would not be thinking about how, like, our storage is $3,000 for a terabyte. It's just like stupid. It's just beyond stupid. But that's an internal cost.
Right.
We understand that we have regulations that it's not about that we have to do it this way because the security team told us security team what the hell they're doing. It's that how much risk will be exposed to if we don't do it this way.
Right.
And the risk does not outweigh if we deny people service to these Citrix apps or stuff like that, like license. It's not a good time.
No longer do business or whatever, right? Like,
I think supporting artists is probably a lot more fun.
it's not. It's different.
It's different, yeah.
Depends.
Yeah, it depends. Because the artists will get broken, but they want the newest stuff.
It depends if you're supporting artists or artistes.
Yes.
The artists themselves are usually not the problem. It's the other layers that are interesting in an agency setting.
You got that right. Artists just want to make art most of the time. It's everybody else who has
chill,
questions regarding
understanding,
IT.
whatever.
So any other thoughts on WDC?
Just waiting for more detail,
Yeah, exactly.
It was a marketing splash, and then it was hey, we're gonna right the ship on a couple of things, and now it's like, okay, what do those things actually consist of?
Right. Yeah, definitely time to, roll up our sleeves and dig into the sessions for the remainder of the week.
Yeah,
Should we create our
few sessions I want to watch, and mostly I just want to, dig in on the beta.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna need to dedicate a machine to do
I
that.
don't know, dig in is the right word, but at least look at it.
The metal book is really great for that because it's not so comfortable for other things. Should I say? I was totally with it for a while, and now I'm kind of like, you know what? I need VMs, I need Docker, I need.
Well, it's not the machine for that, but I've found the general stuff I've found to be pretty good, and it's a great travel machine.
Oh yeah, but therefore, I can also take a MacBook Pro 15-inch
Yes,
and have
yeah.
16 gigs of RAM.
I get the trade-offs. I totally get it.
But yeah, it makes it great. Like you're essentially slapping an iPad against another computer.
More or less, yeah.
That it's that light.
But overall, I've been relatively happy with the MacBook. But yeah, I get it. It's not the machine to do this, right? I don't have the MacBook here because I need ports and some processing power.
You don't want it to overheat and shut down.
Yeah.
Cool room, so it might be okay.
So questions, outside of WDC? Anyone struggling with?
Well, I've been thinking I wanted to upgrade my MacBook Air, and I was looking into something by Transcend, which is called Plug and Play Jet Drive. What do you think about that? Yeah, just storage, like for the flash drive. What do you think about
I
that?
don't know. I've never used one. Has anyone?
The ones that tuck into the SD slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they work. I mean,
It shows up as another volume.
yeah, exactly. It just shows up like an external disk, and the nice thing about those, they don't hang outside of the machine. They're nice and flush,
Oh, okay.
so you don't.
But you can't take them out. If you take them out, you mess them up.
Well,
Well,
you can
you
take them
eject
out.
it.
Oh, eject.
Yeah, you can take them out. You
Yeah.
gotta eject it
Okay,
like any
eject it
other
properly.
external thumb drive.
Okay, I got you.
But it's good in a pinch. Like if you either don't want to void your warranty by upgrading your own SSD, or for cost reasons, it's just more effective to do that, or you just need the storage. You're good with your apps on your primary drive, and you just need some, extra storage for your photos or whatever.
No, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. So Penn State. Anyone going to Penn State end of this month?
Yeah.
You're going.
You been to them?
Vancouver?
A couple years.
Oh, yeah,
last year and a couple years
I
back.
got it.
You always forget about it.
No, I was gonna bring it up, but I mean, like that's the one. Like I just blew it going this year. Next year, 2017, I'm gonna try a whole new slate of conferences. Like I think there are a bunch of conferences that I want to get to and I never get to.
Which ones have you been to and which ones have you missed?
So Mac DevOps, I want to get to. I haven't been this year with it being so close to Penn State.
Mac DevOps.
Mac DevOps in Vancouver.
Ooh.
There's another one, right? Is there? Oh no, there's a DevOps Days Toronto, and I think the Mac one was inspired by that, perhaps.
Maybe, I don't know.
He goes to the ones that are in Toronto, or that are in Vancouver, pretty sure. There was a DevOps Days that he had gone to. I don't know where exactly it was.
I'd like to go to CocoaConf next year. I've never been to a CocoaConf. It's a developers-focused conference. I've always wanted to get to Strange Loop. It's another sort of developer-y, hacky conference, and it's like every year that collides with Mac Sysadmin. So
Wow, sold out. Mac DevOps.
yeah, it's a
It
small.
starts on Mondays.
Oh yeah, it's coming up. But yeah, Penn State. I've been trying to plan Mac Tech conference, so I'm open to ideas for Mac Tech conference. Obviously, I'd love everyone in this room to speak.
Isn't that in the fall?
It is November. This year it's a little later because there's something else happening the first week in November this year that we're going to avoid. Yeah, in the form of the presidential election. We feel like, yes, people can mail in, but most people probably like going into a booth and pulling a lever themselves.
Ooh, Alistair, you're speaking, huh? The picture's here.
You're famous.
Right
You're on the
there.
internet.
My name starts with
That's you right
A,
there.
and then the last name starts with B. So
Yeah, it says you're the speaker.
I was going to be towards the top of the list.
Yeah, it says you're the speaker.
Maybe I should finish my talk.
I only have a 5-minute thing to fill. So it's not too bad.
I started.
Are you on a
I was
panel?
a letter.
Yeah,
It's-
You don't need to do anything.
I
It's
figured
the
out.
5-minute talk in the panel. So
Oh,
it's not too
okay.
much work, but
I'm talking about OS Query because it's going to be. So I think the graph is that our traveling is to file vault as I will be to OS Query, as Randall Stakes was the Apple configurator, as I think that's going to be my hobby horse. I've done 2 talks on OS Query in the past 2 months, so I'm going to finish out the trifecta. This is supposed to be the one that's correct. This one actually does actually have stuff to. So instead, but actually, I'm going to tell jokes.
I'm very
That's
curious.
correct.
Because last year, Joe
That's supposed to be a
Chilco,
surprise.
Joe Chilco did vFuse and he did all of his different tools around VMware Fusion, and you have to wait, like Packer and Vagrant, you have to wait for the damn thing to boot as part of the demo video. So he's like, does anybody know any jokes? I didn't have any jokes. I really regret that. So this year, I've written a lot of jokes. And then eventually I'm going to do the presentation part.
Well,
next time I'm going to do this
Yeah.
ask him about his pan jokes off camera.
yeah. I think we've all gotten that thing where it's drilled into us enough that any of us could.
I did not have the delivery.
Yeah. But hey, next month you should tell us about OS Query here.
Yeah, sure.
Happy to hear
Go
about
for 4 months.
it. But yeah, Mac Tech Conference, I would love to talk to people about that. So if anyone would like to present or would know someone that would be good to present. I'm getting some speakers in now. I've been talking to some
Let's see if I
people.
subscribe to the magazines. It's free or
Now you can subscribe, but this is an event that stands alone.
okay?
So
It's pretty cool. I went like 2-3 years ago, maybe.
good. Well, you should come back.
Yeah,
Trying to this year.
and it's actually warm too.
We've been really lucky with the weather there.
Yeah.
Every year has been nice, and we've been able to have meals outdoors at night and things like that.
It's
So
been in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, it's always been in Los Angeles.
I'm going to try and get there this year.
Good.
I'm moving out there at the end of summer.
Oh boy. Well, you'll be
Yeah.
local then. So you
Yes.
can just
Well,
join us.
newly transplanted.
And yeah, those tours and things. All right. On that note, then, everyone, thanks so much. Yo, one more. Go.
Yeah, so I want to plug in a session
Yes.
Thursday, Seattle meetup. You can tune in live. Justin Peterson will be talking about his project Commandment, which is an
yeah. That's the MacAdmin?
Yeah. So he.
Are you going to be there, or are you just telling us
No,
about
I'm
the
just
video?
telling you 'cause
Okay.
it's a small group.
Okay.
So yeah, he'll be talking about the Commandment project.
They stream it live like this one. Okay. I will try to hunt that down.
How do I,
Yep.
Awesome.
what's the link?
At 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Well, that's good. I won't be commuting with
Seattle MacAdmin.
What is
Alright.
it? Seattle what?
Seattle MacAdmin.
Oh, Seattle
that.
MacAdmin.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seattle MacAdmin.